Hello friend, oi amigo, oi amiga. Welcome to this lesson of Welsh Inglês Técnico. This is the lesson Operações Aritméticas, or arithmetic operations. In this lesson, we will look at the very basic numbers and operations that we use on those numbers. What are the topics of this lesson? What will we learn? 3 things. First, we will remind ourselves, what is arithmetic anyway? Second, we'll talk about binary operations. What is a binary operation? And then finally, third, we'll talk about the 4 very basic operations. Okay, so let's get started. Let's remind ourselves, what is arithmetic anyway? Well, arithmetic is the study of numbers and the basic operations on numbers. Now, in English, we have 2 words that are spelled the same, they're related, but they have different meanings and different pronunciations. We have the noun arithmetic, and then we have the adjective arithmetic. So, arithmetic is the study, but the operations, we call them arithmetic operations. 2 words, very similar, but we need to understand the difference. Arithmetic studies numbers and the operations on those numbers. Most of the operations that we use daily are called binary operations. Binary operations. The word binary implies 2. That's because a binary operation combines 2 numbers, called operands, to produce another number. Once again, a binary operation combines 2 numbers to produce another number. These numbers are called operands. For example, A and B could be combined by an operation to produce C. We have all used the 4 basic operations of arithmetic since we were children. Those 4 operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Again, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You see here in the table these operations summarized. Each of them has a sign, each of them has a result, and each of them has certain words associated with them. We will talk about each of these operations now. Let's begin talking about addition. Now, before we do, let's remember that this is an English lesson. This is not a math lesson. So we're not trying to understand addition. We are trying to learn how we speak about addition in English. So addition has the plus sign. And we will use the example of 2 plus 6 equals 8 to talk about the many ways that we can say that same thing. 2 plus 6 equals 8. So one very simple way is we simply say 2 plus 6 is 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. We can also say 2 and 6 are 8. 2 and 6 are 8. And we can say 2 plus 6 is equal to 8. 2 plus 6 is equal to 8. Or we can say 2 plus 6 equals 8. Sometimes we talk about it in a conditional sentence with if. If we add 2 and 6, we get 8. If we add 2 and 6, we get 8. I used we. I could have said you. If you add 2 and 6, you get 8. Same thing. Finally, we can talk about addition by talking about the result, the sum. We could say the sum of 2 and 6 is 8. The sum of 2 and 6 is 8. As we can see, there are many ways of expressing addition in English. Now let's look at subtraction. And the sign for subtraction is the minus sign, We will use the example of 5 minus 1 equals 4. And we will talk about the various ways we can say the same thing in English. Of course, we could say 5 minus 1 is equal to 4. So equals 4 or is equal to 4. Another way is to focus on the result. The result of subtraction is the difference. So we could say the difference between 5 and 1 is 4. The difference between 5 and 1 is 4. Another very common way of speaking about subtraction in English is to use the expression take away, remove. And so we use this a lot with children. We could say 5 take away 1 equals 4. 5 take away 1 equals 4. Of course, we can use the conditional if. If we take 1 away from 5, we get 4. Again, if we take 1 away from 5, we get 4. Now, let's take a little break here to talk about the expression take away. Take away is a phrasal verb in English, and it's a transitive phrasal verb. What that means is this. We can say take away 1 from 5, take away 1 from 5, or we can say, take 1 away from 5. Do you notice the difference? The placement of 1, take away 1, or take 1 away. Those are two different ways of saying the same thing. There's one last way of speaking about subtraction that I want to mention, and that is using the expression you are left with, or we are left with. Left with, that means what remains. So we could say, if you subtract 1 from 5, you are left with 4. That means what remains is 4. If you subtract 1 from 5, you are left with 4. So we see that with subtraction as well, there are many ways in English of expressing the same operation. Now let's speak about multiplication. Multiplication uses the times sign. Usually it is the little cross or little X. Sometimes it is a period, a little dot. And that is the symbol for multiplication. Of course, there are many ways of speaking about multiplication as well. We can say 2 times 1 is 2. We can say 2 times 1 equals 2 or is equal to 2. We can say 2 multiplied by 1 is 2 or equals 2. 2 multiplied by 1 equals 2. We can use the conditional if. If we multiply 2 by 1, we get 2. If we multiply 2 by 1, we get 2. And then we can focus on the result, the product. We can say the product of 2 and 1 is 2. The product of 2 and 1 is 2. So with multiplication as well, there are many ways of expressing the operation. We can use the word times. We can say multiplied by. We can use the conditional if we multiply. And then finally, we can use the product, which is the result of multiplication. Finally, let's speak about division. We see the symbol there of division. That is one symbol. There are others. Sometimes we use a slash. Sometimes we use a horizontal line. When we use a horizontal line, we place one number over the other, one operand over the other. So sometimes in English, we use the word over to speak of division. So we could say 8 over 4 is 2. 8 over 4 is 2. We can also say 8 divided by 4 is 2. 8 over 4 equals 2. If we divide 8 by 4, we get 2. Or finally, the quotient of 8 and 4 is 2. Here we focus on the result of the quotient. The quotient of 8 and 4 is 2. And we see now with division that we can express it in many different ways. We can say divided by or over. We can use the conditional if we divide. And finally, we can talk about the result, which is the quotient. So now let's briefly review what we just learned. Well, we reminded ourselves what arithmetic is. Arithmetic is the study of numbers and the basic operations on numbers. We reminded ourselves that a binary operation combines two numbers to produce another number. And then we looked at many different ways of expressing the four basic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We've arrived at the end of this short lesson on arithmetic. And so the next step, if you haven't already watched the video with Portuguese, I encourage you to do so. Go watch the video with the explanations in Portuguese. And if you need to, come back and watch this one again. So, it's been a pleasure, friend, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.